if y'all are like me and you have gotten to the point, you've already gotten to the point where you said, I don't want to continue to do this thing my way. God, I want your will for my life. I know that your will is what is best for me, and that is what I want. Y'all, once you get to that place, you're trying to figure out, is this something that God would have me to do? Is this God? Right? So I want to give you three ways, right, that I have found that help me to know, oh yeah, this God is in this thing. The Holy Spirit is leading me in this thing, right? One way that we know is that a lot of times when God is calling you to do it, you can't let that thing go. And the reason you can't let it go is because God is working in and through you, right? When God is calling us to do something and we try and we quit and we start and we stop, but we keep coming back to it, right? We keep coming back to it. There's something on the inside of us that says start again, that says try again, that says apply again, right? I couldn't let it go, y'all. And the reason I couldn't let it go, the reason God kept bringing me back to what he was calling me to is because he was working in me, right? He was working in and through me. I had no rest in my disobedience. So this is one of the ways you know. This is one of the ways you know it's God. Because when he calls you to do something and you don't do it, or you start and you stop and you give up on it, you can't rest in it. It bothered me. Not doing it bothered me. It's just like with David and Goliath. When David stepped on the scene, he was just bringing his brother's food. Y'all remember he wasn't there to fight, but because that was David's destiny, because that was God's plan for David's life, when he stepped on the scene and he heard Goliath saying all the things that everybody else heard, he was talking all this trash. That's what he was doing. He was talking junk, right? Nobody else had stepped up to fight him. They were not bothered by the fact that Goliath was saying all these things. But when David stepped on the scene, David was bothered by that. He was bothered by that, right? It bothered him to hear this uncircumcised Philistine talking, defying the armies of the living God. That bothered him. It bothered him, y'all, in a way that it didn't bother other people because it was his assignment. It was his assignment. That's why when God said, oh, Kira, this is what I want you to do, and I would start and I would stop, that thing bothered me. God would say, oh, I want you to do this. Now I want you to create a YouTube channel. I would start to try to make videos. I was like, oh, this is hard. And I would stop. That thing bothered me. It bothered me because that was my assignment. That is my assignment, right? So, and I like the way Darius Daniels, y'all, Darius Daniels in Darius Daniels' book called My Purpose is Calling, he says that, how does he say it? He says, you weren't just created, and it may not be exactly like this, y'all. He says, you weren't just created to make a difference. You were created to make your difference. I love that. I love the way he puts that. I can feed the homeless every day and make a big difference, right? I can make a huge difference if I go and feed the homeless every day. But if God has told me to create videos, to coach people, to speak, right? To create stuff online that is going to help people to grow personally, to grow spiritually, that is going to help them with their business. If God has called me to do these things, then I may be making a difference, but I am not making the difference. We should all be making a difference. But at some point, we have to become concerned. We have to prioritize making the difference that God created us to make. What is my assignment in this season? Let me not just go and do anything. Let me not just do anything that's helpful. Let me seek the Lord. Let me seek God and try to figure out, allow him to reveal to me, what is the difference, God, that you created me to make? What have you called me to do in this season? And the reason this is so important, y'all, if I run from the assignment that God has given me, I am not making the difference. I'm making a difference. I'm not making the difference. I'm not doing the specific work that God said I have specifically and uniquely handcrafted you, Kira, to do. This is the specific work that I designed for you to do. And because I designed for you to do it, you're the one that's going to do it in such a way where you're going to reach the people that I want you to reach. So there is making a difference, and then there is making your difference. So now I'm off track, y'all. Let me get back on track. The second way that I knew it was God was the peace that I had and the fulfillment that I felt. Now, I want to be real clear, because I know I've seen people disagree on this, or not necessarily disagree, but have different perspectives. I've seen people say, you can't expect to have peace when you're doing what God has called you to do. You're not going to always have peace. You're not going to always feel this. You're not going to always feel that. While I see what they are saying, or at least what I think they're saying when they say you're not going to have peace when you're doing what God has called you to do, is what I was talking about earlier. Meaning sometimes you're not, when they say peace, I think sometimes they mean certainty. Sometimes you're not going to know until you get way on the other side of that thing, whether it was God. You know, when we look back, we can see it was God, but we're not going to feel that level of certainty all the time as we're walking in it, or before we're getting ready to make that decision to walk in it. And so your spirit does not always feel settled. So I think that's what people potentially mean when they say, don't think that just because you don't have peace that it ain't God. I think that's what people mean, right? When they say that. It would depend on what part of the journey and what part of the process they're referring to when they're saying they don't have peace, right? Meaning, are you saying you don't have peace before you do what you feel God is calling you to do? You don't have peace in it? You didn't have peace after it? Like, what part of the process? But just me, my personal experience, I don't have peace before I make the decision to do it. This has been my personal experience. If God, using the same example, when God was calling me to close my law firm, I was just leaning on God and praying and going, back and forth with God about doing it. I had not made the decision to do it. I knew what he was calling me to do, but I had not yet decided that I was going to be obedient. I was still struggling with it, right? But y'all, as soon as I made the decision that I was going to say yes, that I was going to do what God was calling me to do, I immediately, and I mean, I instantly felt peace about it. I hadn't even started walking out the things that he was calling me to do. I had just made the decision that I was going to do it, and I instantly felt peace about it, right? After I make the decision that I'm going to do it, I have continued to have peace. Right. And I think that some people say they don't have peace because they're confusing peace with easy. Yeah, this good, Kira. This good. Let's lean into this, y'all. We can't confuse peace with easy. So when I say God was calling, for 2 years, I was going back and forth with God, going back and forth with God. And as soon as I made the decision that I was going to do what he was calling me to do, when I say I felt peace instantly, and I continued to feel peace as I was carrying it out, walking through the process of what he was, calling me to do. I don't mean it was easy, y'all. I don't mean it was easy. So when I say I had peace, before I was unsettled. When I knew what God was calling me to do and I wouldn't do it, I was unsettled. My spirit I was not settled emotionally. I was not settled mentally. A lot of times I didn't even feel settled physically. Like I was not settled because I was wrestling with this thing that I knew God was calling me to do. But as soon as I said yes, y'all, I felt settled in my spirit. I felt peace about it. Not, oh, I had all the answers. I knew exactly the path I was getting ready to take, and I knew exactly I was going to do X, Y, and Z. No, there was a whole lot of stuff I didn't know, but I felt settled, and this was the path that I was getting ready to walk because I knew that that was the path God was calling me to take. So I felt peace instantly. But peace don't mean easy. Oh, you're going to come up against some things, right? Paul, y'all, I think about Paul when Paul was sitting in that jail writing those letters. And we know that before he had his encounter with God, he was a bad boy. And I don't mean bad in a good way. He was doing any and everything, right? After he had his encounter with God, when Paul made up his mind, when he made a decision that he was going to live for God, that he was going to spread this good news, he set up in that jail and he had peace. He wrote those letters in jail. In jail. He had peace about his decision. He had peace about the assignment, the path that God had set him on. So peace don't mean easy. He said, I have learned, y'all. We got to learn to be content in every situation, abased or abound. I have learned. So even though he was facing all these trials, all these obstacles, he was in prison, right? He's writing these letters from prison. He had peace. So when I say I had peace, I don't mean I had all the answers and it wasn't hard. No, there was a lot of unknowns. So peace don't mean easy, y'all. He knows that his will is the best life for us, the best life that is possible for us. So we don't feel peace, we don't feel fulfilled a lot of times because he's trying to pull us. He's trying to pull us in the direction that he would have us to go. He's trying to get us on the right path. Number three, y'all, this is the third one. When God is calling you to do something, as you start walking in that thing, as you start implementing, as you start allowing God to lead you and work through this thing that God is calling you to do, you realize that it is drawing you. The process of being obedient to this thing is drawing you closer to God. When God calls you to do something, it's so big you can't do it without him. When God called Moses to lead the children out of Israel, it was so big he couldn't do it without God. There was no way. God, every step of the way, God had to tell Moses, do this, do that. God had to lead him. And Moses knew that. Moses knew he couldn't do that thing without God. When God calls you to do something, it is never just about you. Your obedience is always connected to other people, to other souls, right? Other people are going to be impacted by the business that God told you to start. Other people are going to be impacted by the ministry that God told you to start. If God is calling you to start the YouTube channel, to start the podcast, to start the business, if God is calling you to apply for that position on your job, your obedience, you being in that position is going to impact other people. That's why he wants you there. That's why he wants you in it. That's why you have the job you have, because it has placed you in a better position to apply for the one he's telling you to apply for now. So our obedience, y'all, is always connected to other people. It is always bigger than us. So when he is calling you to do this thing that is not just going to benefit you, but it's going to bless so many other people, it's going to take you drawing closer to God to do it. It's going to take you becoming a person, a version of yourself that you have not yet become. You're going to have to do some things that you have not done yet, right? God is drawing you closer to him. God will give you an assignment that is so big, you got to lean on him. Praying more, just in my word more. I know it's God because it's drawing me closer to him. Y'all, if the enemy is leading you to do something, if the enemy wants you to do something, it ain't going to draw you closer to God. Know that when the enemy is trying to take you in a direction, you ain't going to read your word more. Listen, When the enemy is taking you in a direction, you're not going to have a desire to pray and worship and fast and rather than watching a series on Netflix to watch things on YouTube that's going to help you grow to become this person that you know God is calling you to be. So that's it, y'all. Those are the three things. Number one, I can't let it go because God won't let me let it go. He won't allow me to rest in my disobedience. Number two, after I have made the decision, after I have said yes to whatever the thing is God is calling me to do, I have peace and I have fulfillment as I'm walking with Him throughout the process that I didn't have before I made the decision. And number three, as I am walking with God, as I'm trying to figure this thing out, it is drawing me closer to God. I look up and I see that I'm praying more than I ever have. I am reading my word more than I ever have. Free time where I would have normally spent doing useless things, I'm investing in my growth, right? So I hope this helped y'all. Loosen that grip. Y'all, loosen that grip. We're so educated. We have so many resources online. We think we know so much that we have these detailed, immaculate plans for our life, and God cannot reveal His plan for us. We're holding on so tight to the life that we see for ourselves, to the plan that we have for our own life, that we won't loosen it enough for God to give us His plan, for God to reveal to us His will for our life. Loosen that grip. Let go and let God. Yeah. That's what they used to say back in the day. Let go and let God. Let go of the life you see for yourself and let God, allow God to work in and through you to reveal His plan for you, His will for your life. Y'all, let me say this before I close out. I'm not saying don't give 100% to your plan, right? If right now you're doing what you feel God is leading you and causing you to do, I want you to give 100% to that, right? I want you to give it all you got. We may be going left. We may be going 100 miles an hour and we may be going left. But when God tells us to go right, we're going to slow that bad boy down and we're going to go right. After we have slowed down and we have made the adjustments, now we're going right because now this is what God has called us to do. Guess what we're going to do? We're going to increase speed again. We're going to increase speed again. And now we're going 100 miles an hour again, going right. Now we are throwing our entire self at whatever this thing is that God has called us to do. So I'm not saying don't have a plan. I'm not saying don't have a system. I'm not saying don't determine for yourself what it is that you're working towards. No, you got to have a plan. I'm saying don't hold on to that plan so tight that you can't hear when God's trying to give you another one. Don't hold on to the plan so tight that God can't reveal to you His plan. That's what I'm saying. Have a plan. Give it all you got. But when God tells you to stop going left and to go right, you got to go right. And then you got to throw your entire self into going right. That's what I'm saying. So that's it, y'all. I hope this has helped you. I hope that this is giving you some practical insight, right, into discerning the voice of God for yourself and being able to identify instances in your own life, either before or after, when you look back, that you've been able to say, God, I see you. I feel you. I know that was you, right? I hope this helps you. That's it, y'all. Bye.